Man, back for another episode.
Yes, we are. Well, what has been going on this week? My wife started a new website,
Oh, that's the Lubus.
Lubus for her boots. So that was, as usual, I had to take it all the way up to the deadline, just like back in high school, cramming for the test. So we were buzzing, getting the little edges cleaned up and everything, and so that was the big deal this week. So she got to launch her website, her own business, and as you're familiar with, so I'm very proud of her.
It's really exciting. You can find it at Lubus. It's LUBOOS.com, right?
That is correct. Yep.
Lubus.com. Yeah, there's some pretty cool, like they're can boots, right, for dancers.
Yeah, basically they call them character shoes in the can style, I guess.
Yeah.
And but they are boots.
Isn't that the ones that like all the dance people, like productions and stuff, you have to get them for schools and stuff like that? Is that the style?
Yeah, mostly like Broadway productions and traveling versions of Broadway shows and everything. That's apparently, from what I understand, that's the most preferred dance shoe, this style. So yeah, it's just really exciting because she's taken all of her experience that she's learned over the years with JB cases, and she's poured it into this. And I believe, having compared everything that I've seen come through, that she's built something that's the equivalent of or better than anything else out there. So I'm pretty proud of her.
Well, my big excitement this week is I got fired by a client.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did indeed, man. It happens from time to time. Sometimes you just can't make everybody happy. This particular one was they didn't like my pricing system. I do things a little bit differently than other accountants. I like to just charge a flat fixed fee. So you pay me a fee once a month, and then I just do everything that you need. There's no nickel and dime for phone calls or meetings or stuff like that. And they didn't feel like the last couple months they got their full fee worth of service from me, which is probably true. But, you pay me throughout the whole year. I don't charge you extra when I work very hard for you at the end of the year or doing taxes, so they just couldn't get over the fee system that I was doing. A lot of my clients really prefer it because I don't send them bills, documenting 15-minute phone calls and stuff like that, but they just couldn't get over it. So it just was not a good fit.
Yeah, I will tell you that I prefer it. And here's why. The Germans have a saying called, don't save on the wrong end. And it means basically, and this is a kind of something that you have taught me, to get back to, because I am the kind of person that would be worrying about, whether when you bill me for an hour, did you actually spend an hour and all this, and really obsessing with it in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And not out of trust, it's just not having a real good sense of the work. And not having a sense of the value. So let's say I face the same thing in cases sometimes too, so I'll get people that will just complain about the price with no idea whatsoever what work actually goes into it. So the few times that I've really laid it out, and I used to do this a lot more when I was in the shop more, where I could just walk around and film each section and each station. When they start to realize, man, this is really a lot of work that you're doing for the price you're charging, and actually you're probably not charging enough. And that's how I see it with you. It really is headache free for me. I just call you up or send you a text and I say, hey, take care of this. And you're like on it, and I never have to worry about it.
It's just how I like to do things. And some people don't like it, but it just works out. But I was going to ask you, have you ever been fired before by like a job or anything like that?
Yeah, I've a couple times. I believe that with some of my outspoken views on different social topics, I get fired at least once a week.
There you go. There you go. I've been fired. I mean, I've been fired by a bunch of clients, but from actual jobs, I've been fired twice. I got fired from Atwood's when I was a youngster. I kept showing up late. I liked going out to the bars more than I liked showing up at 8 a.m. for work. And then I got fired at 23 for I was working with a commercial real estate development firm. It was just not a good fit. I wasn't the cool guy to hang out in that spot, so they didn't like me very much.
I only got fired one time from a job that I had, and that was um, I had went on a vacation
Mhm.
with my buddy, and he was also working at the same place I was, and we were all the way down at the tip of Texas, down there in Brownsville,
Okay, yeah, I've been down there before.
and from Oklahoma City. So
Mhm.
what is that, about 7-8 hours at least, or more, maybe
I think
more
it's a little
even?
more. It's like 8 to San
12.
Antonio, and there's
Yeah,
like 5 more down there. Yeah.
yeah. So it's quite a ways. So we were in his car, and his car broke. I don't know exactly what, something on the engine broke or something, and we were stuck.
Yeah.
So we called back up here to the restaurant that we both work for, and we explained the situation. And they basically said to us, if you're not at work tomorrow when you're scheduled, then don't come in again. So that was that.
Fair enough. Well, what a shitty thing to do, but sometimes managers will do that kind of crap. They just don't have time for it or whatever. I think a little leeway creates a better employee, but
Well, absolutely, and the thing with that is that particular situation. My buddy Ron was one of the best producers in the restaurant. He was one of those guys that you really truly enjoy having as your server in a restaurant. It's like it was almost an art form for him. Um, the service he gave, the way, the rapport with the customers. Now, at that particular time, I was just a busboy, um, but he taught me. He more or less mentored me. When I followed him around, and he would tip out he would tip me, he would tip the other busboys, he'd tip the hosts and the hostesses. He'd tip the cooks. And he was able to do that because he was earning, on average, I think, more tips than a lot of the other servers. But what he taught me was, he said, "Look, I don't do this by myself. You guys are all a team that supports me interacting with the customer. And my only thing is I have to have these tables filled up as many times as possible throughout the evening in order for me to, earn money with tips. And so the faster you are cleaning them up, the easier it is for the hostess to seat me. And when the cooks get the food out, people enjoy their meal, and we're able to turn the tables faster." So that was such a good lesson in how not only the service, and I'll say customer service because that's what he was giving to the customers, is so important, but also so important to have a team supporting it. So that was even though we got fired from that business, I feel like I really do feel like it was their loss.
oh, absolutely. It sounds like he really knew his craft at
Yes.
that point. So, I'm Scott Hess, tax and business consultant.
I'm John Barton, small business owner. Remember the tortoise and the hare? Slow and steady wins the race.
We started Turtlesmith to help people start small businesses, providing information and resources to small business owners and entrepreneurs.
Build a solid foundation and forge your dreams.
Well, let's move on to our first topic of this podcast. We're going to talk about the elevator pitch. This is part of our business plan model, how to start a business from Turtlesmith. We have 3 phases, and the first phase is called plan, and the first step is the elevator pitch. So the elevator pitch is just a brief, no more than 30-second little pitch about your business. It's supposed to be to hook people in rather than, try to close a sale. You're just trying to get them in the door. And I think the big question you might ask is, why do this at the very beginning? And often too many businesses, especially business ideas and entrepreneurs, they'll come at you with all these great ideas, and it's just almost word vomit as they're trying to explain the business that they want to start. They're just overcomplicating it. They're talking about all the little features that they want to have, everything that it does. An elevator pitch helps you narrow your focus. And your first business, or when you start a business, you should have a very narrow focus in your scope of work. And so if you have a great elevator pitch, then you have a great start to this whole planning process. So do you have an elevator pitch for JB cases that you like to throw out there, or have you ever thought about putting one together?
So I have actually not ever thought about putting one together because I didn't get into this with any kind of level of any planning that anyone would recognize as a plan,
Yeah.
and that led to a lot of hardship along the way. You know, a lot of asking why can't I get anybody to support? Why can't I get any support from any kind of institutional investment? You know, like a bank or an investment group or anything like that. And part of it is because I believe that I couldn't succinctly explain what it is we do. I always wanted to go into a much longer version of my vision and my plan and and world domination and so on. And I didn't realize that brevity, is much more important and being concise and specific. So
It really is. You want to have that longer form pitch, of world domination in your back pocket, but the elevator pitch is really just designed to get people interested. If you start going in with the long form, people's eyes glaze over and they just stop listening. There's no more engagement. But if you hit them with that 30-second elevator pitch and you get them excited about the product, then you've got another couple minutes. And if that is compelling, then you have another few more minutes. So
I think it's, would it be analogous to like your foot in the door if you're a salesman?
100%. Yeah, the elevator pitch is what gets your foot in the door. And then once you're in the door, you've got another couple minutes to explain your idea a little bit more in detail. And then once you go from there, then you've got a long form if they're still excited about the product, or you can send them information so that they can learn about it and read about it themselves.
I used to make a joke in the billiard industry that if I had a dime for everybody that pitched me on some new gadget or something like that. And here's the thing with that though is that we have had studies by the Sporting Goods Manufacturers Association, the SGMA. They're the biggest ones who go out and poll people and say, how often do you play basketball, baseball, whatever, right? And billiards, surprisingly, always ranks near the top of sports that people play or they consider it a sport, and for this poll.
I found that surprising when you told me that the first time. I mean, it makes sense. There's so many pool tables, bars and people, and I used to play a lot in college, but to think of it as one of the most common ones was definitely surprising.
Well, here's the thing with that, though. So it generally, last time I checked, and this was like a decade ago maybe, they said something like, with their extrapolation, like 30 million people play pool every week. And I think that it was up there like with like basketball or something. It was definitely in the top 5.
That's an incredibly high number. Yeah.
But here's the thing, right? Billiards is a very casual activity. So as we said, there's pool tables in all the bars and everything. So when you're just asking people on the street, how often do you play pool? They may include, that 1 or 2 nights out at the bar where they just throw a couple quarters in the pool table and play a couple games with their friends, right? But they're not really diehards. But the thing with this survey and this 30 million number is that for the people who play a lot and are really into pool, a lot of them use that number to say things to me throughout the years when they were pitching me on ideas. They would say to me, if we only get 1% of those 30 million people, then we'll be rich. And
that's incredibly common saying. Yeah. Yeah. It's a $500 billion market share. If we can just grab 1%, we'll be filthy rich.
Right. And so, I was working after I sold my first company. I went to work for one of my customers.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my tasks, because they were a billiard supplier and a wholesale billiard supplier, one of my tasks was to evaluate new products. Yeah. So I had, a big box full of products that people would send in that they had spent, I don't know, some of them, their life savings basically, or whatever money they could get and borrow. And a lot of the stories when I would call them up and talk about their product, unfortunately, that was a big part of what they said was, we're just looking to get like 1% or 0.5% of that 30 million. And a lot of times, by that time I had, 15 years experience in the industry. And sometimes I would just have to break their heart, and I would have to say, this is not a product that even the diehards are gonna buy into a lot, and especially not the casual people.
Yeah.
So, but they didn't understand that.
Well, so a big part of the elevator pitch is forming it, and I pulled this straight from MIT.edu. So it is the 3 C's: credible, conceptual, and concrete. So you want to be able to spell out your credibility, right away, why you are even involved in this industry, what kind of background you have. Conceptual, meaning only that high level stuff, not getting into the nitty gritty or the details of the business, just a high level overview of what you're trying to do. And then it needs to be concrete, so tangible, something that's easily digestible that whoever you're talking to can get right away. So that's really important, those 3 C's in forming your elevator pitch. And then a few key points. You really want to talk about what kind of problem you're solving. Your business should solve a problem. So JB Cases is a great example. It solved the problem of queues falling out of their case and breaking. That's an easy part to include in your elevator pitch. You want to know your numbers, talk real carefully. Do not do what we just talked about where you say, if the market share is this big, but what you want to do is you want to say, we have a reasonably priced deal. Here's probably where we can fall into, this category or this range of cost, stuff like that. And then you want to make sure that your focus is very narrow, especially if this is your very first business that you're starting. You want to just have a laser focus on this one or maybe a couple little products that you're providing, and really knowing the ins and outs of those products. And then, of course, you just got to practice an elevator pitch. Now, doing it at the beginning, your elevator pitch will change after you finished your planning and then once you've gone through the preparation of phase 2. But having it at the beginning and then constantly coming back to it, by the time you're ready to get started, you will have a dialed in elevator pitch.
So I want to ask you on the few key points where it says know your numbers. Could that be translated into like what's in it for them?
Exactly. Yeah. So you want to talk about, depending on who you're doing the elevator pitch to, you would adjust it slightly. So, you have some very key people that you're going to do this elevator pitch to. The very first people may be your lenders, who you want to talk to them specifically about numbers. The next one may be your suppliers, your employees, and then of course customers. So there'll be a different elevator pitch for depending on who you're talking to.
And do you want to be fairly conservative with those numbers?
Very conservative. Yeah. You always want to err on the side of caution when you're planning. It's very easy to say, I can make $10 or $15 or $20,000 a week if just these couple of things happen. But if you have a rock solid plan that works conservatively and everything else is just bonus, so be conservative in your planning.
So I think that the adage, that a lot of good businesses follow with under promise and over deliver, kind of is there too, so it's you want to make it, well, you want to know that your numbers are attractive enough, that they're going to work out in a lot of even the worst case scenarios, so that you're basically under promising. And that gives you a lot of leeway then to over deliver at some point.
I use that saying constantly when I'm talking with clients. I'm always very scared of over promising and under delivering. So I always make sure to really tell my clients, this is what we're going to be doing for you. And maybe we can get certain resolutions in place or something like that, but I don't want to over promise. So
I know.
Here's where we're at and here's where we can do our best to get to. So, and
yeah.
I hope that I can do a much better job than I let on.
You have successfully introduced me to the 15-year time horizon.
Yeah, I have indeed. I have indeed. Well,
but thanks to your help, right, we have been able to achieve goals and successes in the past 3 years that we hadn't been able to achieve in the previous 10, 15 years.
Fair enough. The last portion I want to talk about of the elevator pitch is the follow-up. Now, when you're in your initial planning phase and you're going through this, you don't need to worry too much about that. But when you come back to your elevator pitch after you've done all the planning and preparation, and when you're actually giving the elevator pitch for the first time, you want to really be ready for the follow-up. That 30 seconds is supposed to hook them. And if it does, then you've got another minute or two you can talk to them. So you've got to have that follow-up in place. have a business card ready to hand them if it's just a quick interaction. Get their information so you can email them or send them more information. Be prepared for that follow-up. And if you're not, then it doesn't matter how good an elevator pitch you are. Sales is always about the follow-up.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, and it's really something that a lot of entrepreneurs, myself included, never think about. We're so excited, we're so passionate. We're going to be in business. We're going to do this. And we don't realize that these are the important foundational building blocks, that will get your foot in the door. And the people that you're pitching, a lot of the times they're very experienced. They're, you're the only reason you're really talking to them because you think they can help you. And it's not always money, by the way. Sometimes it's resources or it's mentorship or anything, and you're asking them for their time, and you want to justify why they should give you some time rather than giving it to someone else or some other project. And if you don't have a good grasp on what it is that you're actually doing, then they will weed that out very quickly. They will see it, they will feel it, they will ask some sharp questions that are necessary for them to understand whether they want to even deal with you or not. And if you're not able to answer that because you haven't taken the time and created the discipline for yourself to actually practice these things, then you're not going to get a lot of traction with these people.
Absolutely. So, in our plan, our phase of how to start a business, we start with the elevator pitch, but we are constantly coming back to it. So, get that narrow focus in place. And then after every step, come back and evaluate your elevator pitch, change it, make it a little better. And by the time that you're ready to start, you'll just have a great one, and you'll be able to interest all kinds of people in your business.
Now, do you think that throughout the life of a business, even as a business matures and you're starting to feel more secure, and do you think that you should still have an elevator pitch of some sort?
Absolutely. 100%. You're always going to find somebody, you may not use it as much, but you're always going to find somebody that can help you, that you could work with, it would be good to hear that elevator pitch.
So like me, for example, we've been doing this for 15 years now. We're pretty well known in the industry. We got a reputation. Even for me, that would still be good to be able to. Would you consider it, like at my point, would you consider an elevator pitch to be kind of like an audio business card?
Almost. And you know what, man? I bet you have a great one in your back pocket because you've done all of those booths a million times. How often do you just drag people in and you get that 30 seconds to just kind of interest them in the case, and then you go on the long form about talking about all the finer points, but you just have that couple seconds as they're walking by to interest them.
And that's a very good point, actually, because me personally, it has always been difficult for me to approach people.
Mhm.
So I don't necessarily drag people into the booth, but when people do come into the booth and they're just kind of hanging out and looking at stuff, it's always been a little bit difficult for me to go up and break the ice with that. So over the years, yes, I've had to develop a few techniques, that would not make them feel pressured, not make them feel like I'm a hovering salesman, so to speak. And so I would say that yes, over the years, I have kind of we'll call it a booth pitch, if you will, so someone's in there, they're sort of interested. What do you say to them to keep them interested rather than to pressure them out of your booth?
Right, exactly. And that's another great point with the elevator pitch is that if somebody's maybe not interested or they're maybe on the fence and you just give them the elevator pitch and then leave them alone, they'll be very happy with you. Even if they weren't super interested, they'll be like, he didn't talk to me for 5 minutes like that other guy. Maybe his product is better.
I have actually at times told people, I said, look, I want you to look around. I want you to look at the things I've just told you, but I don't want you to buy anything. I'm not even going to take your money because I want you to walk around. When you take the time, walk around the show, check out all the other products. And if after looking at everything else, you feel like that our product is a better value and it suits your needs, then come on back and we'll be happy to help you pick out one and get your money because I want to have a lifelong relationship with you.
I think that's just extreme confidence in your product, and I'm sure it's worked out great for you.
It has. It's worked out a lot. It's people will say, and I know this through follow-ups and when people will go home, especially with the internet, they'll go home and they'll brag about what they've bought, and they'll say, look what I picked up out at the show. And they will often mention that and say, the guy didn't even want my money. He actually would not let me give him any money until I walked around and looked at other cases.
Well, there you go. That's for the elevator pitch. So be sure to get one in place before you move on to step 2.
Now, I don't know if we finished quite the last part when you said be ready for the follow-up. You said have something tangible to give them, like a business card, a brochure, a form email that you can personalize. Now, this is a really bad habit of mine. I do not have business cards on me. I have probably 4,000 business cards in my shop, and I just picked one up today, and I was going to bring it in and use it for this, and I forgot to do it. But one of the business cards that we made, on the back of the business card, it said, I put on there almost a little form, and it said, what model was I looking at? Who did I talk to? And then notes. And the only purpose for that was, as kind of self-evident, was for me to be able to use that card to give them a business card and give them the information they needed so that later on, if they didn't actually purchase right then, they would be able to call us back up and say, hey, I talked to John at the show. This is what we talked about. And generally what I would do, and I would tell my staff to do this, was to take a picture of the back of the card so we would have a reference.
That's a fantastic follow-up. Yeah, definitely.
And it really did help, because a lot of people would get back from shows and they wouldn't know who they talked to. They wouldn't remember the details because they've been inundated with so much information, so many new products and things they've never seen. So that, that really worked out well for that. But my one of the bosses that I had in a company that I worked for was always on my ass for not carrying around my business cards. Like, he would test us in the office. He would come up and say, hand me a business card. And if I didn't have one ready, then he'd lay into us. Not in a bad way, but in a like your mom does not approve way.
And that's almost worse than being mad, right? The disappointment from your folks rather than them just yelling at you.
Yeah. So, and sadly, I haven't, and I should, I should have the habit of having a business card ready. So all of you out there looking, not only is it super important to always have your elevator pitch and always be honing it and practicing it, but if you are in business, then it truly is worth it, even today, to have a business card, ready, and a tangible one, not just, people can exchange numbers or business cards. One of the guys that worked for me when I first came to the United States to set up here, his name is Sean, and Sean was very, very diligent about every person that he met, about exchanging phone numbers and writing notes, so that he knew who they were, what they wanted, and everything. And he would make them do it. He'd say, call me right now. And then,
well, that's the sales book, 101 from the salesman, man. You got to do it.
And he worked it, and he really, coast to coast. There's people to this day, 10 years after he no longer works directly with us, they will call us up and they will speak very fondly of Sean and the warmth in the relationship and the care that he showed and interest in them. And to this day, I bet you if I looked in his phone, he'd have those notes and know exactly and remember exactly who that was.
Well, I think you screwed yourself a little saying that you don't ever have business cards. So I hope everybody who watches this, if they see you out in the wild, come up to you and just ask for a business card. just to embarrass you into constantly carrying them. So if you see John out there, just ask him for a business card.
It wouldn't take very long before I would get the message and
Fair enough.
do it. So I think that I will make a much better effort to actually start carrying them now. This episode is sponsored by JB Cases. JB Cases is a pool cue case company specializing in custom cases. They have been in business since 2007, and their motto is true protection, true durability, true comfort, and true custom. Visit them at jbcases.com.
Well, let's move on to our second segment. We're talking about the customer experience. So what kind of customer experiences do you really enjoy? I have two that I want to bring up. We recently purchased some stuff here for this little deal from Sweetwater Audio, and I don't have a lot of audio needs, but I love that company. I ordered something, and like a day later, I get a phone call making sure I ordered the right thing and it's the right connectors and everything that we actually need. They follow up. They really seem to give a shit, and I love that about companies when they do the follow-up, like we talked about before, following up with that sale. And they made me feel happy about making the purchase, which is, I think, something that a lot of small businesses and companies in general don't do. They don't follow up to make sure that you're satisfied and happy with your purchase. After they get you, they hook you, they're just done. And sometimes I've had some buyer's remorse. You ever had that, the buyer's remorse, when you buy something, you're like, maybe I shouldn't have spent that money on this
Oh,
stupid
absolutely.
thing.
Absolutely. And it's terrible, and sometimes like with me, I'll buy things, that I know that I can return if I don't like it and things like that. But then a lot of times it won't be worth the hassle for me. But what happens is that every single time I look at that thing, as long as I own it, whether I use it or not, I'll have a twinge of regret, and I just won't feel good. It won't make me happy.
Yeah.
It's like, who's that? The Japanese lady that does all the organizing, Marie Kondo,
Mm-hmm.
I think, and she sees like, if you look at all your stuff and you're trying to, you're trying to get organized and pare down what you have, if you put something in your hands and it doesn't bring you joy, get rid of it. So yes, a good customer service experience means that you are more likely to experience joy with whatever you purchased, with whatever or the service that you got. So one of mine, for example, that I really like in my business is Uline.
Yeah, we talked about that before. They have such a great website. It's so easy.
Yeah, it's really freaking amazing, their website. It's one of the most efficient and easiest websites that I know of to be able not only to find things, but also when you have to reorder. They have just made it so stupidly easy to reorder. And because it's easy, it's also made it easier for me to order more, which is what they want.
Right.
So when I started out, I was ordering, 5 bundles of boxes, and now I order by the pallet.
Yeah.
Now I do not always need a pallet of boxes, but because they're so good and they made it so easy for me to see the savings if I order more, and I can, and they do one other thing that's pretty cool too, which is they have tiers of their giveaway. So they'll give you a free thing if you order, $1,500 or $2,000 or whatever. And so, but they've made it so easy to just say, oh, you know what? I'll just order, 5 more bundles of boxes so I can get over that hump. And their customer service on the phone is fantastic. They always go out of their way. They never argue with you. That's not to say
I'll use companies over and over and over again if they have the good customer service on the phone. I get so annoyed with having to be on the hold for 20, 30 minutes, and then you talk to a robot and all that bullcrap. I'll go out of my way and spend more money for a good person to talk to on the phone.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the things that I've been annoyed with the last 5 or 6 years is just thinking about the amount of time that is essentially, in my opinion, stolen from consumers or from people who need a service. You call up the phone company or anywhere. It's like when they leave you on hold forever, and a lot of times it's because their customer service reps are being forced to juggle who knows how many calls. Especially like with chats and things like that, and you're just you can't hang up because you need your problem solved, and these companies don't care. They seem to not care. And
a lot of those that have monopolies too, like here, you can only get one internet provider, you can only get one electrical provider, stuff like that.
Yeah, Yeah, well, yeah, it seems that way that they get to the point where they realize that they don't have to give, good customer service, or they know that you're held hostage essentially, and you're just going to put up with it.
Well, I really try to do a good customer experience here. We have kind of just a small office. It's pretty open. So any clients that we have in, they know basically my whole team. And one of the things that is probably not going to last very long, but it was one of the biggest selling points of my business, was all of my customers and clients had my cell phone number. So they could just text me or call me directly rather than have to go through a bunch of people. But I'm worried that as I grow, that's going to go away, because I feel like I'm on the phone or texting more than I'm actually doing any work at this point.
Well, I would say that um, you just need to work on replicating your attitude towards customers, making sure that that attitude is shared by the people that are working for you, so that nobody feels like, it used to be in my company that people would call up all the time and they would absolutely insist on only talking to me.
Yeah.
Um, but over the years, because I have shown my team how I feel they should interact with customers, um, now the demands to speak to me are far less, and people are getting the service that they want and need. My staff knows that they are empowered to solve problems. Um, they know that they can tell a customer, "I don't know, but I promise you that I will get back to you," and they do get back to them right away. And that has made a big impact on giving customers the same confidence level and comfort level that they would get from me. As a matter of fact, it's even better, because I personally have become so distracted, having my hands in so many different things and so many different projects going on. Um, Recently I hired an assistant to help me with that, and it's one of those things where I didn't really ever think that I would ever have a personal assistant. But having that person in my life has allowed me now to give better service, not necessarily to customers because I'm not speaking with customers as much as I used to, but it's allowed me to give better service to my team and the people that I work with, to get things done that they need to be able to give customers good service.
I think that's a lot about building just a really strong customer, or not customer, corporate culture, I think is what they call it. Just really building that environment where all of your employees feel comfortable and safe to do things, and happy in the working environment makes all the difference as well in the customer experience.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I can't speak for everybody, of course, but I feel like that if people feel like they have a nice, comfortable, and relatively fun environment to work in, um, that will, in turn infect the customer with that attitude, as long as they're doing their job. Of course, nobody wants to have a fun conversation with someone who doesn't follow up and ship their case.
Right.
But it will help to tolerate. Now, I've noticed this to be true too. If you give good customer service, then customers themselves are a little bit more tolerant of mistakes or delays and things like that. Um, if you're staying on top of it and you're communicating with them, and you don't necessarily have to give away the store to make up for a mistake or make up for a delay, as long as the customer knows that you're really trying and you're not neglecting them.
That's fair enough. Absolutely. I think as long as the customer is satisfied with the way that you're dealing with the problem and talking to them, that it's usually you can work about anything out.
Yeah. So so yeah, that's about all I have to say about customer service. Do you have anything else?
I don't. I don't. I think it's just very important to have a strong customer experience and a good product, but the customer service just lacks sometimes. So that's something to really pay attention in your business and get the feedback. So creating that feedback loop, which is another step within our plan, developing a feedback loop, you can really understand the customer experience by getting that information directly from them.
I want to say one more thing about customer service that I think is often overlooked.
Yeah.
And that is information. That the way that I try to do it with our cases, so we do custom pool cue cases, as you know, and those cases have 17 different aspects of it that have to be paid attention to, and then within those aspects there's other details. So there's a lot of small things that have to be dealt with to get one custom case done. So my goal, and it's an ongoing goal, it never quite ends, is to try to give the customer as much information as I can to inform their expectations, to mold their expectations to what it is that we do, um, and not have them be surprised at anything. Not have them. And I'll give you a very quick example of this. I had a salesman sell me um, internet service, and I'm not going to mention any names, but basically I got roped into a contract that was like a 3-year contract, and I ended up moving out of the space that I was in about 2 months later. So I didn't need service at that location anymore. And I had not realized that I was in a 3-year contract, because if I had known that, I would never have gotten into it. And I would not have accepted it. But
Would you not have, though? Because would you have had a choice?
well, I don't know that I would have had a choice, but I will say this. The first time in that location that I got internet service from this company, I was not in a 3-year contract. So I was not in any kind of I think it was at most a year. And so I may have chosen it if that were the only choice, but I probably would not have.
I think sometimes they get you with those like cut rates. So like your first year is like half price, but it's only because you signed the 3-year contract, but they never tell you that you're in the 3-year contract. They just tell you that you're getting the cut rate for the first year.
Correct. And this is something that, for example, the what do they call it? The consumer finance board or something like that with the credit cards. Um, this was an initiative I think Elizabeth Warren started or something like that under Obama, where she was basically saying, look, consumers, don't deserve to be taken advantage of. What they I forget who it was, which of the financial gurus that said this, but it was basically like what they give you in the big print, they take away in the small print. And so her deal was, look, there needs to be more transparency here so consumers know exactly what it is that they're getting into. For example, one of the things that they do is if you're late on any bill, any other bill that you have, right? You're giving them the right to monitor all of your financial transactions with other companies. And if you're late with any, say they start you out at an introductory rate of say 15%, right? Well, if you're late, right, on paying your gas bill or something like that, for whatever reason, doesn't matter, your interest rate jumps up to like 28%. And
it's ludicrous.
But the thing is they don't tell you this, right? In the beautiful, easy offer promising you points for your vacations and your cash back and everything like that. Then way, way, way down on the 40th page, in 8-point font, there's a paragraph there that it lays it out very clearly. Well, not even very clearly because it's in legalese. That if you slip up anywhere for any reason, it could be your card expires or something, right? And it makes you late on a bill. And they use that as an excuse to jump you up to 28%.
It's ridiculous.
So there are actually initiatives in, and I don't know if this is part of this program in America, but there are initiatives in other countries where they literally force credit card companies and any companies that want to get a regular person into a detailed contract. they literally force them to have the terms and conditions in plain language.
See, that's the way to do it. I don't even read half of those user
Nobody
agreements or anything.
does.
Yeah, I mean, does anybody actually take the time to read? I think South Park did an episode on that with the Apple one where it got a little not safe for work, but they were you just sign your life away. They do anything you want.
I am pretty sure that Facebook owns my children at this point. Like if
Is
they
that the
ever
move?
wanted to come and collect,
Yeah.
it's probably in their terms of service that they can just take my kids and make them into whatever Facebook wants them to be.
I would love to speak with somebody who reads that. There is somebody out there who reads all of those. I would love to talk to that person.
We need to find that guy.
Right? Just whoever actually reads all the terms and service. It's got to be somebody's
He's
job
like
too.
he's like, look, man, I would love to come on your podcast and talk about this, but I've still got 400 pages to go in the Facebook terms
Right.
and services.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was making a point there about that part of customer service is being, as transparent as you can for customers and giving them basically all the details and all the information they need to succeed with your company. Whether it's buying something from you, it's getting a service from you, you're transacting with this person, you're offering them your product or your service, and you don't want them to be disappointed. I have a kind of a concept that I often tell my staff when I'm talking about, why they should pay attention to the quality down to the tiniest detail. And it's called the 3 a.m. regret. Okay. And what it is it's basically like, you don't want someone to get a pool cue case and be up at 3 a.m. and just kind of going over the case and looking at everything and then find something that's badly done or off or even not the way they wanted it, that they didn't notice. So we want to do everything possible to make sure that doesn't happen, so that they're always happy with it. Because worse than the 3 a.m. regret is the 3 p.m. regret when they go into the pool room with their brand new case and they're showing it off and somebody else points out something that's wrong with it.
Oh, that's the worst.
That just destroys all their joy. And now they're going to call me up and they're going to be mad. So I tell my staff all the time, if we do everything that we humanly can to prevent that, then not only will we not have a problem, but we will have an evangelist that will go out and preach our praises and sing our praises and sell more cases for us. So that's where we're at with customer service. And we don't always live up to it.
And transparency.
Right.
Transparency was a big thing you hit on there. I think that is very, very important.
This episode is sponsored by JB Cases. JB Cases is a pool cue case company specializing in custom cases. They have been in business since 2007, and their motto is true protection, true durability, true comfort, and true custom. Visit them at jbcases.com.
Let's move on to failures and successes. Do you have a good failure or success? I have a good failure.
You do?
I
Okay,
do.
well, I'll let you go. You take the failure.
I kind of have a sad one, unfortunately. My big failure was not getting key man insurance. Key man insurance is vitally important when you are investing in a business with a key man. So you don't want to ever forget to get that. I started a small company. We were trying to get into the marijuana craze that was happening here in Oklahoma. And we really wanted to do really solid edibles that were made like from an actual cook. And so the guy I partnered with was a chef. He was very talented. He made like actual, fudge brownies and cookies and stuff like that tasted really good, but also had the right cannabinoids and stuff for the medical people. And he was really passionate about helping out the cancer patients and people who really needed the product for like pain management and stuff like that. And so I invested a bunch of money and then he died. And I had nobody to continue that business. We tried with one of his buddies, but it just wasn't the same, and it didn't really pan out very well, unfortunately. Plus, the marijuana industry just is not a good business to be in Oklahoma. It's really tough. But that Keyman insurance policy, I had mentioned to him before, and we talked about getting it, but I just never followed through, and it would have saved me. I would have got all my money back, and even had a little left over for him and his family probably. So it would have been really a needed thing. But you just don't think about those worst case scenarios. I didn't even plan for it, and I'm an over planner.
Yeah, and that's that's one of the things that I think that really attracts me to what we're doing here is trying to impart this information and how important it is. This is not a get rich quick scheme. This is not we're not trying to overhype stuff here. We're really trying to give people really practical and important things. I have a similar situation, and you saying that has just reminded me that I need to take your advice. You've given me that for a year now or more and said, make this happen. Because we do have, a key person in our business. And if something happens to her, that would really rock us. And we pretty much wouldn't be able to continue at this point. So we don't have a backup plan. And we would need that financial ability to take time off and rebuild and find somebody that could do what she does.
And people just really don't plan for those worst case scenarios, and it's very, very important. I have one now here at my company because if something were to happen to me, it would be a disaster, not only for my employees, but for hundreds of clients. They would be kind of lost without me, So not because I'm that amazing. It's just because I have all their information and tax documents and stuff that they would need to move to somebody else. So we have a plan in place to bring somebody else in, and I've got a policy set up to pay extra salaries for like a year after I'm gone. So that way everybody's taken care of.
Yeah, and that's so important. And you're right. If you're especially if you're successful and, for the first time you're watching real good money come in and you're just riding high on that, and you're thinking about all the great things that you want to do and so on. And just people want to be positive and they don't want to think about, the worst case scenarios, but you have to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, anyway, that was my big failure. I wish it wouldn't have happened, but I just failed to plan there. So, and failed to follow through on something that I had thought about.
Well, yeah, that's sad to hear about. And, rest in peace to your former partner. And it sounds like he was a great person and a really good cook. Probably the Walter White of edibles without the illegality.
I don't know about that. Well, end us with a success. You have a good success story, something that you did well or were happy about the result?
Let me think about that for a second. Yeah, I think, I'm going to get a little bit kitschy here and a little bit, sappy, but watching my wife start her business this year now, watching her, just grow and just truly enjoy, creating a product that she knows is going to be really beneficial to the dance world. I want to say that one of my biggest successes was marrying her and getting into a relationship with her and not dismissing her. Now, this is something that I've told her, so I'm not revealing anything here, but when I first met her, I thought she was relatively shallow and not really intelligent. But she was very nice, she was very genuine and kind-hearted and a wonderful person, right? So I didn't think of it in terms of marriage. I thought of it in terms of, just having a nice relationship with a person that I enjoyed being with and having fun, and we were. But I underestimated her, and she is incredibly deep and incredibly intelligent which paired with her kindness and her relentless pursuit of any goal that she sets for herself it's even hard for me to claim that as a success, but I will say it like this. She inspired me to change, to be better, to be worth being in a relationship with her. And that's the success. And that has led to whatever success we are having now.
That is a little sappy, but that's a good one. Although I think she's the smartest of the two of you because she's the one that convinced you to hire me, right? Yeah. She's definitely the brains of the outfit then.
Yeah, absolutely. But like with so many honeydews, right? It took her, it took her reminding me for a couple years, to finally take the step to actually hire a CPA. So.
Well, I've been really excited to see her start this business. I've been really stoked that she's been coming into the office and using part of it for her photo shoots and stuff like that. She just seems incredibly happy, very excited about the project. So it's been really nice to see.
I want to say something about that too, I think. You have been incredibly generous with allocating part of your space here that was not really being used. I think it was you were using it for the edible.
That's
business
where our
before.
kitchen was. Yeah, now we just have this big empty space.
Right, and you said let's turn this into something. We tried to start a business before in there, and unfortunately, that didn't quite work out with the with some of the cultural things, and we'll talk about that in a future podcast.
Yeah.
But we did it with the best of intentions, but we spent a little bit of money, renovating in there, and it looks nice, and it's a really nice space. But what it's actually turned into is a support space. It's a space where we can do this podcast that we're doing. It's a space where she can come in and do photos there. It's a space that we may use for in-person interviews or a green room or whatever. We've just made it into a really nice place to be.
Yeah.
And that's a great utilization of resource, that you had available. And it really does, to me, show the power of synergy, even in the smallest ways. Like who are we? We're you have an office in a strip, a business strip here. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that most people would look at that and think of the really great space that you've allowed to be built in here, that is itself and can be and will be supportive of many businesses if they need it. If you have a client, for example, that needs to do a photo shoot and doesn't have a place,
we got one handy.
And that we would never have a problem with that. No. Use our stuff, use our equipment. It's okay.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're here for, is to support as many people as we can in ways that make sense for them and for us.
Absolutely.
So, I really appreciate that. And you have been very instrumental in her being able to do what she's doing now.
Well, I appreciate that. And I'm just excited that she's doing something that she's really excited about. And I hope it's a great success. So it's Luboos, LUBOOS.com.
Yeah, and this wasn't intended to be a commercial for Luboos, but
we made it.
The most important thing that I want to say there, that aside from all the sappy stuff, is she is starting this business with the proper information financially, and logically and logistically. So we have the resources, yes, but she only got the real good plan and how to do it the proper and right way from you.
And you all can get it at Turtlesmith.com. That's where we're going to have everything.
Good segue on that one.
Right?
Look at that.
That
was smooth. You're getting so good at that.
I'm trying, man. This is like our third one. I feel like I'm getting a little better each time. So Turtlesmith.com. That's where you can find this entire list of phases and different steps in how to start your business. There's also going to be a lot more great information, licensing and permit stuff, and a huge FAQ. We're hoping to just keep building that FAQ to answer all kinds of questions. So Turtlesmith.com, that's the place to be.
Absolutely. And before Calvin turns off the mic there, I think one of these days I'm going to have him set this to Teddy Pendergrass, so that we can make accounting fun and sexy.
Oh yeah, there you go. There you go.
All right. Well, I think that's all I got this week.
That's
You got
it for
anything
me,
else?
man. Yeah. That was
All right. Well, turtlesmith.com. You guys have a good one. We'll talk to you next week.